Imagine the world's largest democracy splurging $16 billion on an election. Intriguing, isn't it? Welcome to the Indian Lok Sabha elections of 2024, the billion-dollar democracy. Keen to know how an election can have such an eye-watering price tag? Stay with us as we delve into the jaw-dropping financial aspects of conducting such a mammoth democratic exercise. Our focus today is the staggering cost of elections, zeroing in on the Indian Lok Sabha elections. Let's take a moment to comprehend the sheer magnitude of the numbers we are about to unravel.
Indian politicians are amongst the wealthiest individuals in the world. Yet fat wallets and big bankrolls do not guarantee a victory when vying for votes. This next report puts the spotlight on the world's most expensive democratic exercise, but also shows why money is not enough to win.
चुनाव आते ही देश में तरह तरह के रंग देखने को मिलते हैं। कोई नेता पोस्टर बैनर लेकर चुनाव प्रचार के लिए निकलता है तो कोई और बड़े बड़े रोड शो करता है। चुनाव प्रचार चाहे पोस्टर के साथ हो या किसी मेगा रैली के जरिए। क्या आपने कभी सोचा है कि देश भर में चुनाव करवाने में कितना पैसा खर्च होता होगा? देश में 18वां लोकसभा चुनाव होने वाला है और बताया जा रहा है कि ये देश का ही नहीं बल्कि पूरी दुनिया का सबसे महंगा चुनाव होगा। इस बार अनुमान लगाया जा रहा है कि इस बार चुनाव में लगभग 1.2 लाख करोड़ रुपए से ज्यादा खर्च हो सकते हैं।
The 2024 Indian Lok Sabha elections are projected to cost a whopping 35 lakh crore rupees or $16 billion. This isn't merely a random figure, it surpasses the expenditure of the 2020 US election, which totaled 1.2 lakh crore rupees, or $15 billion. Breaking it down, it amounts to roughly 1,400 rupees or $17.50 per voter. With a voter base of 9.6 billion people, the overall sum is far from insignificant. For some perspective, let's roll back to past elections. The 2019 elections cost $7.5 billion. The estimated expenditure of the 2024 elections more than doubles the previous one. The Center for Media Studies, a non-profit that has spent 35 years analyzing expenditure, and its chairman, Bhaskar Rao, are the minds behind these estimates. Factoring in all sorts of election-related expenses borne by the Election Commission, governments, candidates, numerous organizations, and political parties, the BJP party alone is anticipated to account for a staggering 45% of the total expenditure among all political parties. These figures aren't rough guesses. They are rooted in the disclosed data of electoral bonds and all election-related expenditures, including those incurred 3 to 4 months before the oath dates. Interestingly, a mere 10 to 15% of the total sum is spent by the Election Commission on the administration of these. So, what contributes to this astronomical figure? You might be wondering, where does all this money actually go? Well, it's a multifaceted answer. Let's start with the Election Commission. This body is responsible for the smooth conduct of the elections, and they account for about 10 to 15% of the total expenditure. Their costs include everything from setting up polling stations to training staff and ensuring security. Then come the governments, candidates, various organizations, and political parties. They all have their respective budgets, with most of the money going towards campaign expenses. This often includes rallies, events, travel, and other forms of public outreach. It's not just about the days leading up to the election, but also the 3 to 4 months before the election dates are announced. Yes, campaigning starts way before voters get their hands on the ballot paper. Now let's talk about electoral bonds. These are financial instruments for political donations. They've been a significant part of election funding in recent years, and they're expected to play an even bigger role in the 2024 elections. A chunk of the expenditure also goes to various media outlets. Around 30% of the total election expenditure is spent on media, including advertisements on television, radio, print, and increasingly digital platforms. In addition to these, there are also pre-election campaign expenses. These are costs incurred by parties and candidates even before the election dates are announced. It's kind of like a movie trailer, building up anticipation and excitement for the main event. The expenditure doesn't stop there. Parties and candidates are always looking for ways to navigate around the expenditure limits set by the Election Commission. This leads to costs that are often hidden from the public eye, adding to the overall expenditure. However, this is just the tip of the iceberg. The true cost of elections is much more than what meets the eye. From the visible costs of campaigning to the invisible costs of political donations and under-the-table deals, the price tag of democracy is a complex web of expenses. In the age of information, media plays a crucial role in elections, and this comes with a cost. It's the era of digital platforms and social media, and the role they play in campaigns is expanding at an accelerated pace. When we talk about election expenses, one cannot overlook the substantial amount that goes into media outlets. Approximately 30% of the total election expenditure is invested in various media platforms. That's a significant chunk of the budget. But why? Well, it's simple. In today's world, media is the most powerful tool to reach out to the masses, disseminate information, and influence public opinion. Picture this: catchy jingles on the radio, vibrant banners on websites, trending hashtags on social media, compelling television ads, and gripping newspaper editorials. All these are part and parcel of the media campaigning that goes on during elections. It's a high-stakes game where visibility and reach can make or break a campaign. But it's not just traditional media that's hogging the limelight. The role of digital platforms in campaigns is on the rise. From Twitter trends to YouTube videos, from Instagram stories to Facebook posts, the digital world is becoming a new battleground for political parties. It's more immediate, more engaging, and has the potential to reach a wider audience, especially the tech-savvy younger generation. And let's not forget about the power of data. Campaigns are becoming more data-driven, with parties investing in sophisticated analytics to understand voter behavior, demographics, and sentiment. This helps them tailor their messages more effectively, target the right audience, and maximize their impact. But the media isn't the only place where money flows during election season. As we peel back the layers of election expenses, we discover a complex web of expenditure that goes beyond what meets the eye. In our next segment, we will delve into these hidden costs, shedding light on the less visible aspects of election spending. Don't miss it. Every election has its visible costs, but what about the hidden ones? Let's dive into the murky waters of the hidden costs involved in elections. There's a whole world of expenses that often goes unnoticed, but significantly impacts the overall expenditure. One of these hidden costs springs from the parties' and candidates' efforts to avoid falling under the expenditure limits imposed by the Election Commission. It's a high-stakes game of democracy, and every player is looking for ways to spend more while showing less. This is where the under-the-table transactions come into play. Parties and candidates continue the flow of money in different ways apart from the electoral bonds. These costs are not immediately visible and are not accounted for in the initial estimates. Interestingly, a significant chunk of these hidden costs are incurred even before the election dates are announced. This includes the campaign expenses borne by parties and candidates. It's a race to gain the upper hand, to be the first voice that the voters hear. And this race comes with its own set of costs. Now let's talk numbers. Out of the total expenditure, the Election Commission spends only about 10 to 15% on the conduct of elections. That leaves a staggering 85 to 90% of the total cost unaccounted for in the official statistics. This is where the hidden costs come to the forefront. About 30% of the election expenditure is spent on various media outlets. And during this 45-day campaign, the actual cost will be more than the visible cost. So, let's paint a clearer picture. Compared to the 60,000 crores spent in 2019, the expenditure this time is more than double. And a significant portion of this increase can be attributed to these hidden costs. So, the actual cost is more than the visible cost, but where does this leave us? Well, that's a conversation for another time. For now, let's continue to unravel the complex world of election expenditures. We've looked at the breakdown, the media expenses, the hidden costs. But what does this mean for the cost of democracy? In the grandest display of democratic spirit, the Indian Lok Sabha elections, the numbers are staggering. The estimated expenditure for the 2024 elections is predicted to reach a whopping 1.35 lakh crore rupees, or $16 billion. This is more than double the cost of the 2019 elections, which stood at 60,000 crores, or $7.5 billion. This enormous cost isn't just the price of printing ballots and setting up polling stations, it includes every facet of the election process. From the Election Commission's conduct to the expenses of political parties, candidates, and various organizations. It even encompasses the money spent on campaigns months before the official election dates are announced. Despite the eye-watering figures, the Election Commission's contribution to the total cost is only a mere 10 to 15%. A significant chunk, around 30%, goes towards media outlets, fueling the 45-day campaign blitz we witness. But what does this mean for the common citizen? On average, around 1,400 rupees, or $17.5, is spent per voter. While this might seem like a small figure, it's a testament to the scale and complexity of managing one of the world's largest democratic exercises. However, this cost isn't just a financial one. It's a cost borne by the democratic process itself. The escalating expenses raise questions about the influence of money in politics. It challenges the very essence of a democratic election, which should be a level playing field for all candidates, not just those with deep pockets. Moreover, the rise in digital platforms has changed the landscape of election campaigns, adding another layer of complexity and cost to the democratic process. In conclusion, the price of democracy is high, with a significant financial burden. But it's more than just money. It's about ensuring every citizen has a voice, and every candidate, regardless of their financial backing, has a fair shot. This is the price tag of democracy, a hefty one indeed. Now, we've given you the facts and figures, but what do you think about this? When we delve into the vast sea of numbers, it's easy to get lost. Yet behind these figures, there's a story, a narrative that's as diverse and complex as the democracy it represents. The cost of these elections, the festival of democracy, is not just about the money spent. It's about the hopes, dreams, and aspirations of billions of people. The magnitude of the expenditure is staggering. Yet the question we should be asking ourselves is, what is the value of democracy? Can we put a price tag on the freedom to choose our leaders, our representatives? What does it mean when the world's largest democracy spends more than double its previous elections cost? We invite you to share your thoughts in the comments below. What does the cost of democracy mean to you?